how we can work better together. We clearly are not out here to derail your project, to replace what OpenStreetMap is aiming to do with what we're trying to do. We think, looking at different territories and all of that, a lot of this stuff, we just have to deal with. Our approach is, in many ways, quite different to what OpenStreetMap is trying to do. We approach the problem from a base data set that we have pretty much available everywhere, which is the terrain model that we use from the shuttle radar terrain topographic map. In this country, Iceland, if we then said, okay, well, let's look at what we've got from the commercial providers, the map would look like that. There isn't anything. You go and talk to Teleatlas or Navtec or AMD, we have today's time, haven't got any. And largely because, as you're aware, those commercial companies are largely driven by the needs still of the automotive industry, building devices, PNDs, and in-car navigation systems. If there isn't a big enough market in these particular countries, that drops down the list of the countries that they want to finish and do. We do have imagery available for those countries. Largely, the imagery we're using in MapMaker is coming from Digital Globe and from Spotted Marsh, satellite imagery. And it's imagery that we license. We always license the imagery in our products. We don't actually own the imagery. We license the imagery to use in our products. And we've had to license the imagery with rights to derive information for those countries that we need to do MapMaker for. Those are additional rights as far as the imagery providers are concerned. So if you want to derive imagery, derive data from the imagery, you need to pay more for the license to do that, as opposed to just displaying the imagery in an application like a web map. Now, I know you guys have got the relationship with Yahoo to give you those additional rights. That's something Yahoo have negotiated with the imagery providers they use to give you those rights. We've done that on a selective basis for those countries that we're using MapMaker. So, what does MapMaker look like? If you haven't played with it, it's probably very familiar to you. Basic digitizing tools, the ability to add points of interest, add street data. We take a slightly different approach, and we have probably a more structured taxonomy behind the scenes, fitting in with the databases that we use internally to allow us to produce similar products that we have globally, where we're basing the information on commercial data sets. You can see very basic, here's some point of interest and some road data. You can see the name, the language, the preferred name of that locality, address information, postcodes if they're available, a bit more information about the type of road and so on. This is information that is presented to the user when they're capturing the information to say, fill in as much of this as you can. Perhaps another key difference in filling in this data is that we have a moderation step. So all of the edits go to a human. So you might say, well, there may be scalability issues with that, and there may well be scalability issues with that. But at this point in time, that's what we're doing. We're moderating the data, looking at the edits, making sure that they seem reasonable, they fit in with the other data that's there, managing conflicts in that data before the information is finally submitted. Now, as many of you are probably aware, MapMaker is actually the public version of a tool that we've been using internally in Google for a couple of years, where we've been capturing various parts of the world, again where there was no commercial data easily available to us. Key amongst those was the work that we've been doing in India and some of the Middle Eastern countries, where all of the data that you see there was captured using this tool, but captured by Google employees doing the digitizing, doing the data capture, in pretty much the same way that we're now asking the community to help us do. Why are we doing this? Well, the main reason we're doing it is to provide a similar level of capability in Delhi, in this case, as you would find in San Francisco or London or Dublin. Just because you've set up a small business in Delhi, there's no reason why you shouldn't have access to the same marketing tools and that availability of accessing your market as you would have in any other country. You know, it's really accessing the small tail businesses just as much in Delhi as they do in any other part of the world. So we need to have that same common infrastructure for everyone else to have access to. In saying that, though, there are some small differences. If you look at maps in India and in the Middle East, they look pretty much the same, but you'll see there's higher prominence given to points of interest, things like stations, schools, hospitals. The landmarks are more important in those cultures for navigation purposes rather than street names. So they become more emphasized as a result of local capturing the data. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it to provide that same level of access to information upon which the infrastructure that we provide can then be used by other organizations to build their businesses in the same way as anywhere else. So, key question then, why not take an open geodata approach? Well, I think the proper way of phrasing that is why not take an open geodata approach yet? I think probably most of us in Google believe that at some point in time, the information that we've captured will be available in a more open form than it is now. We don't know how to do that yet. We don't know when we will be doing that, but it is something we're almost certainly going to be doing. But we're not in that position to do it yet, and let me explain why. The main reason is our users and the community of users that we have addressed and assessed. And you think about it, there are two major communities that we're talking to. One is the 150,000 people that are developing Google Maps applications, mashups, whatever you want to call them, using the Maps API. A very, very small minority of those are actually interested in getting access to raw data because they want to render the maps differently, or they want to carry out some more analysis, or they want to do different things. There is absolutely a community that does want access to the raw data, but in general terms, for the people that we communicate with, they're a relatively small community. So for us, it's not a huge priority to make that information available today. That may change over time, and with other changes perhaps working in the licensing regime that we all are trying to understand and work our way around, that may accelerate. But as we sit today, from our API community, the people creating the new Google Maps applications that are being used both on the web and in mobile settings, it's not a priority to have access to raw data. Likewise, for the 100 million people that use Google Maps every day, they don't care. They just want to get access to files. They want to see the map rendered in a way that they're familiar with in an interface that they use. So from a user's perspective, having open geodata at this point in time isn't really a huge issue. However, we do recognize that at some point in the future, we will want to do it. And then we come to the thorny issue for us, as it is for you, about how you license that data. We've looked at this, you can imagine. We've come up with the license that has been widely criticized by the community as, perhaps not fit for purpose. Well, actually, from our point of view, we think it's what we need to have at this point in time. Let me explain. As someone that's contributing data to MapMaker, what you're doing is basically giving us a license to do pretty much as we want to do with the data. It's your data, but you're licensing it to us with very broad rights. Those rights allow us to change the license that we may have in the future to represent that information in different ways, to cut it, to slice it, to dice it, to do different things with it in the future. Now, we don't know what they may be yet. But I think, from our point of view, it's important to give us that level